The Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, welcomed Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, to a ceremony in Aarhus as Denmark took over the presidency of the European Union. According to Associated Press, Frederiksen has vowed to back Ukraine in its quest to join the European Union. Denmark is holding its 8th EU presidency under the motto, "A strong Europe in a changing world." Its aim is to help ensure the EU can take responsibility for its own security, boost economic competitiveness and tackle climate change. Europe faces many challenges. Russia's war on Ukraine, now in its 4th year, will weigh heavily on most policy debates. Economic turmoil also lies ahead. U.S. President Donald Trump's 90-day tariff pause ends on July 9, with no EU-U.S. trade deal in place as yet.
Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski said that a new arms race could lead to the fall of Vladimir Putin's regime, just as happened with the Soviet Union. According to the Polish diplomat, the Kremlin is repeating the mistakes of the past. Having started a costly war, Putin is forced to sharply increase military spending. At the same time, Russia's actions have provoked a large-scale increase in defense budgets in the West. Sikorski believes that Putin himself created a situation in which Russia cannot economically withstand a long war. Let us recall that Radoslaw Sikorski stated that when U.S. President Donald Trump admits that Russian dictator Putin is playing unfairly, manipulating the situation, and introduces tough sanctions against the Russian Federation, the EU's response will be no worse. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that results of NATO countries hiking military budgets will be catastrophic and lead to the bloc's collapse. His remarks mirrored Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski's earlier suggestion that a boost in Moscow's defense spending could trigger the fall of the government. At NATO's most recent summit last month in The Hague, member states committed to spending 5% of GDP on the military, a significant rise from the previous 2% target. Poland backed the hike, arguing that failing to achieve the new benchmark as soon as possible would pose a threat to the bloc, considering the ongoing Ukraine conflict. Meanwhile, speaking to the press at the Collective Security Treaty Organization Foreign Ministers' Council in Kyrgyzstan, Sergei Lavrov took issue with Sikorski's characterization, countering, "Perhaps he foresees being such a prophet that this catastrophic, in my view, increase in NATO's countries' budgets will also lead to the organization's collapse." Lavrov also said that Russia plans to reduce its military spending, which now accounts for 6.3% of GDP, and be guided by common sense, but not made-up threats like NATO member states, including Sikorski. The 5% of GDP target faced opposition from some NATO members. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico said his country could not allocate 1/5 of its state budget to defense, while Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez called the goal not only unreasonable but also counterproductive. Relations between Azerbaijan and Russia are rapidly deteriorating, following harsh statements from official Baku and the closure of Russian cultural events in Azerbaijan. Russian propagandists are now openly resorting to the language of threats and ultimatums. The scandalous Kremlin mouthpiece Sergei Mardan stated on Telegram that Baku has always been a Russian city and hinted at the possibility of a punitive operation against Azerbaijan. Russia graciously allowed the son of a former member of the Politburo of the CPSU Central Committee to defeat unarmed Karabakh. But mercy that is not backed up by bayonets is not appreciated by Asians. Mardan also suggested thinking about the safety of shipping and oil production in the Caspian and about taxes for 2 million Azerbaijanis working in Russia. Such statements are perceived in Baku as a direct attempt at economic and political pressure. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan's state television channel, AZ-TV, has shown hard-hitting footage of Russia recruiting migrants to fight in Ukraine. The broadcast claims that recruits' families are being threatened, beaten and intimidated, and that they are never compensated. Ukrainian military expert Alexander Kovalenko responded to Mardan's words with caustic sarcasm. "We've arrived. The station is a mental hospital. Get out." Russian propagandists call Baku a Russian city. This is a classic of the genre. When Russia sees an independent policy, it immediately looks for reasons to protect the Russian-speaking population. With this approach, Beijing and Tokyo will soon be called their own. Against the backdrop of a growing diplomatic and information conflict, Azerbaijan is demonstrating its determination to defend its independence and continue its rapprochement with Turkey and the West. The Kremlin, judging by the rhetoric of its propagandists, is increasingly falling into hysteria when its neighbors refuse to submit to its blackmail. Earlier, Baku had made accusations against Moscow about repressions. A personal appeal to Putin was also made. Azerbaijani mass media also accused the Russian Federation of an aggressive policy towards other nations. In addition, the journalists who prepared the much-talked-about anti-Russian report drew parallels in the actions of law enforcement agencies under Putin's current regime with Stalin's time, when the punitive organs of the USSR seized people and threw them behind bars on trumped-up charges. A comparison was also made with the actions of the security forces in the Russian Empire under the Tsars. You are used to dominating peoples who were forcibly incorporated into Russia. In Tsarist or Soviet times, Russians were the main race, and the rest were second-class citizens. Although most empires are a thing of the past, the mentality has remained. In the past, Stalin used the NKVD. Now Putin uses OMON. Azerbaijani journalists say. By the way, after the incident with the detention of Azerbaijanis by Russians, official Baku cancelled all cultural events related to the Russian Federation.